Hello, everyone. Today we're talking about how to practice truth telling, honesty, and candor with the phenomenal guest, Nicole Greer. Nicole is the CEO of Build a Vibrant Culture. She helps people, corporations, government, and non-for-profits become better leaders to fulfill their mission, energize their teams, and build a vibrant culture. We love building vibrant cultures here and speak up cultures. So we're very excited to have her today. She uses the Shine coaching methodology and has tons of training programs. Nicole also offers foundational tools and uncommon wisdom, which we are going to explore today. So welcome, Nicole.
Hey, good to see you. I'm so glad to be here. Thanks for the opportunity.
I'm really excited because you're going to share some really powerful thoughts, strategies with us today. These are so crucial to be able to speak honesty and candor. It's so crucial that we do that. Why don't you just share a little bit more? If there's something that I didn't cover about you, go ahead and share that and give us an overview, just high level, what we can expect today from this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, just at a high level, I'm like most people. I fell into my first career and I loved it. And it was the restaurant business. And here's the thing about the restaurant business. It's a business where you got to hustle, you got to make things happen. You got to be good at customer service. You've got to be an excellent communicator because the order's not going into the kitchen correctly and coming out correctly if you don't communicate correctly. And sometimes when it's really busy and it's bustling out there in the restaurant, you've got to hustle, you've got to practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. And if you manage an environment like that, it's really important that you learn really quickly to take people through learning curves, to give them feedback, and to hold them accountable for what they're supposed to do. Because overseeing the process is one thing, doing the job for somebody is a whole nother thing. And as a leader, very early on at a very young age, in my early 20s, I learned to manage people who were twice my age. And so I had to really amplify my voice and ignite my performance and get on with it. If I was going to really manage a restaurant, and back in the day, they used to put my name on the front door. They'd say, if you come in here, Nicole is the leader here. She's running this show. So people could actually say, is Nicole here? I need to talk to her because she needs to help me with whatever going on in my restaurant. So I did that. Then after that, I got recruited out of there and I went to go work for a company called Summit Properties. And I ran really beautiful Class A apartments. And essentially, I was on an island. Because when you run an apartment community, like your apartment community may be in Tampa, Florida, but the home office is in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so you are given this asset that's worth millions of dollars and you have this team of people. And again, you got to find your voice. You've got to be like the CEO of that apartment community. And so I think it's really important, again, to hold your people accountable, give lots of feedback to people, and to take people through learning curves. And that will help you practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. And what I would say about that little phrase, truth telling, honesty, and candor, is it just rolls off my tongue. I don't know when I started saying that, but it has helped me my whole career. So for example, if I sat down with somebody and I needed to tell them the truth, I think if you break it to them with that little phrase, you use a smile on your face and you are putting off a vibe that you want to help them, people are like, yeah, tell me the truth. And so if I'm talking to somebody, I need to give them feedback or something, I just say, hey, do you mind if I practice truth telling, honesty, and candor? And they're like, yeah, go ahead. And so I use that because I think sometimes when you're direct with people, they think you're blunt. But I'm not trying to be blunt. I'm trying to love on you because I'm going to give you some feedback. I'm going to share with you what we're experiencing when you're around. So I picked that up and I've been using it my whole career. And I'll work with clients now and they'll make a joke. We'll be having training or some kind of strategic planning or something. And they'll say, hold on, Nicole. And I'm like, oh, okay, I can hold on. And they're like, I'm going to practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. And I'm like, oh, all right, go for it. So people can pick that up and use that. And it's just a signal that I'm going to be real right now.
That's cute to have that in a team. Sometimes in families, there's this expression or this thing that people do, and you feel connected to each other because you have this special phrase or
Yeah.
so I feel like that could be one of them. It ties back to building that culture of openness and honesty and candor, but it really becomes a game. It becomes a way of getting people on board before you share feedback, and it allows people as well to be more accepting of your failures as you are learning initially how to give feedback, and maybe you're not doing it as well, but it doesn't matter because now people understand that you're trying and you're learning, and they'll be more likely to understand where you're coming from, like you said, even if you do sound blunt in the attempt of not being blunt.
The other thing too that's going on there is when you say, may I practice truth-telling, honesty, and candor, that's a little coaching technique I learned back in 2007 when I got my first coaching certificate. Is they said, when you're working with a client, you're working with a coachee, and you're trying to help them see the way forward in their career, their work, and they have a little blind spot, you say, may I share something that I've observed, or may I share something that I experience with you? And you're asking permission to tell the truth. I would say probably, I don't know, 99% of the time, people are going to be like, yeah, go ahead. But once they've given you permission, then you can walk through the door a lot easier, right? You're not breaking down the door. Let me tell you the truth about you. It's got a little gentleness to it. It's a little hospitality.
Yeah, there's this term, unsolicited feedback. And a lot of people sometimes say, oh, they gave me unsolicited feedback. Who do they think they are?
Right.
And when you do what you're sharing, you don't have that risk is eliminated of being
100%.
someone who is giving unsolicited feedback on something, because giving unsolicited feedback is actually a very good thing, right? We can't predict when we need improvement. If we all had growth mindset, we would all love unsolicited feedback, but it is unpleasant sometimes. And if we're not prepared for it, then it can hurt us a little bit, our egos, our well-being in that day, if we can't handle it very well. So just doing what you said, just asking that may I, and preparing that one, it's not even 10 seconds. It's enough time to prepare the person psychologically for the feedback that they're going to get.
I agree wholeheartedly. Yeah. And the thing too is, we may not get deep into like leadership, but leaders need to have a great relationship with the people that they lead. Like, you have to work on rapport building. And over a period of time of rapport building with your team, if you do it right, they want your unsolicited feedback. Like you said, you've coached so much, you've developed them, you have built this relationship where, like, okay, on my watch, you're going to do better and I'm going to help you. And here's how we're going to do it. And you're going to have an awesome career. When I think about leaders, they're often thinking about, I got to get the product out there. I got to get the marketing done. I got to build the widgets or make the stuff, or however it all works in your industry. And that is a big part of it. We have to have operations, but your leadership role is about building rapport and getting potential and performance out of your people. And when they realize you care about them, and they realize you spend a lot of time with them, intentionally developing them, they will love the pieces out of you. I think about the leaders, everybody who's listening, think about the leaders you've had in your life. You've had some that were just like, make the donuts. And so you made the donuts, you did the work, you did the whatever the thing was. And then you had others that you thought, oh my God, I loved working with him. He was so good to me. And you know what? He challenged me. He made me do stuff I didn't think I could do. Those are the people we love.
Those are the best, because I think there are two types of leaders that we might like, but one of them is the one that we're going to remember and we won't forget. So there's the leader who's all nice and kind and your best friend. And there's the leader who makes you recognize parts of yourself that you didn't even know existed. The greatness within you comes out with that leadership. And that is the leadership that I think, like you said, is exceptional. That's the one that we'll never really forget. And it may be hard. It may be really feel stressful in the moment, but ultimately that's the one that's going to leave the profound transformation in our lives. So I agree with you. And that has all to do with your soundbite here, which is, and I'm going to start getting good at this, which is practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. Love it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And I had a leader one time, her name was Nancy, and I got promoted, and she received me as an employee. Like, I she didn't pick me. And when she got me, I think she was like, oh my God, what did I get? Because I was young and I was doing the best I could, winging it along the way, kind of thing, trying to find my way. And she sat me down on many occasions and said, I want you to stop doing this, start doing that, and continue doing this. So I don't know if you've probably heard that before, because you and I, we run around the same circles. There's start, stop, continue. And she was doing that in the way back. And I would be like, oh, okay. And your little baby ego gets upset for a minute, but then you do what she says. If you're a good employee, you do what the leader says. And then you go, oh, she's right. I should stop doing that and I should start doing this. And that is a good thing I continue to do. It's all about people telling you the truth. And really, she was imparting her wisdom to me. And like, for people to not listen to somebody who's got more experience, I don't really understand that. Why wouldn't you listen to somebody who's 15 years older than you and who has some experience? Like, they might not have it all together, but maybe in this particular line of business, they've got something you need to hear.
Absolutely. Nicole, I'm interested to know, what is a hard truth that you've gotten, you received, you're on the receiving end of it in at some point in your career, but that made a difference for you?
Yeah, I have. I don't know, people listening, I don't know if you all have done personality assessments before, but there's a ton of them out there. But on the Myers-Briggs, I'm an ENTJ, which is like supposed to be natural born leader. What I think it really means is loud and driven and forceful. So that's my natural personality. And like on the DISC assessment, I'm an I with a D behind it. So that's like loud, driven, dominating. And I got some truth from people that's, Nicole, not everybody is excited or as driven as you are. And they are what we call, and this is what she called them. She said, some people are steady eddies. And you need them, Nicole. You need them on your team because they're reliable. They show up. They're not super dynamic. They're not super outgoing. They're not going to have your enthusiasm, but they're going to get the work done and they're going to do it in a way that you can rely on. And so they don't need a constant pep talk from you about their bigger, brighter future. They need your support and they need you to give them direction, provide them the resources or get them aligned, and just demonstrate your commitment to them. Not everybody wants this big, giant future, which I think everybody should want, but they don't. So I was basically told, in essence, take a chill pill. And I did, because there's different ways to deal with different people on your team. And so you flex your personality to the personality that you're dealing with. And I think that was probably the biggest truth telling, honesty, and candor. And I still don't really understand in my heart and soul why people don't want a bigger, better future, why they're happy right where they are. They call it this thing called contentment. That's a hard concept for me. But some people, isn't it great? They're content. And we need content people in this world. I think it was probably the best piece of feedback I ever got.
Yeah, no, it's really good feedback. First of all, I don't find you dominant. I can see the energy, I can see the drive and all of that, but not the dominant part. But I do agree with you, and that's something that also surprised me with my team members. I was treating them all as if they all wanted a promotion. And then when I realized that some of them were like, it's not worth it. I think there was a team member who actually said, I don't think it's worth it to move up. The responsibilities go up and the workload goes up. And I just want to focus on my family. I just want to do this. I want to be able to end my day at 5 and not have to worry about anything. And there are people with different priorities and ways of being in. It's really good to understand those differences, not only in personality, but where people are in whatever stage of life they are in at that point.
And I think in essence, if I had to boil it down, there, or saying take a chill pill, which would also be like, be patient. Just be patient with people. Because I would get irritated. And I'm also a fast person. I do things fast and I have a huge sense of urgency. And even my children would say, Mom, relax. So it's a little overdone part of my personality, and I need somebody to call it out. That's enough. We're going to relax now. And I think all of us have little things in our personality. We need somebody to be what I have a whole program that I do. It's called the Tilt, and it's the Tilt leadership model. Is so fantastic. But in that model, we talk about studying your personality, the corresponding character traits. So we take it to next level. So you've got this little personality, but you can put character around your personality to make your personality beautiful. And when you're not operating in your best level of integrity or character, you need somebody who's your spotter. And so when we go through the program, we'll have teams go through it, and you pick somebody on your team. You're like, you're in meetings with me a lot. If I get too sense of urgency, I'm pushing too hard, you sense that people are irritated, you got to be my spotter, because I'm too caught up in myself right now. At the same time, you might have a different personality in the room that's quiet, not saying a thing. They have expertise and they could say something, they could add to the conversation, but they're not. See, they need a spotter to kick them under the table, nudge them, say, hey, speak up. So we need to, and the name of the program is tilt to these other styles of being in the world, so that we're more well-rounded and we're received by people who are different from us.
I like the spotter. And I think the best spotters, and let me know what you think, are the very blunt ones who will speak up and say what they think no matter what you do. If you like it or don't like it, they'll just say what's on their mind, unfiltered and raw. Do you think that those are the best ones, or is it better to have a mix of different types of spotters?
I think it's okay to have a spotter like that will do that privately with you, maybe not in the moment, because it could be embarrassing. Your little ego might get hurt, something like that. Have you read the book Radical Candor by Kim Scott?
Yes.
Yeah. So I think you need, in the story that Kim talks about, how Sheryl Sandberg called her in her office and she was trying to tell Kim, no, you look like an idiot when you were giving that presentation. You said and ah 15,000 times. I think that's how the story goes. And she's, I'll get you a coach. And Kim's, no, I don't need a coach. I did fine. And then finally she had to like be blunt with her. So sometimes I think Kim Scott, if you watch her on a video, and everybody should do that. Everybody write that down. Go watch a Radical Candor video by Kim Scott on YouTube somewhere. Any of them will be great. But like, she needed somebody to fight, to be a D for her, because she's a D. She's a very dominant personality. And so she needed Sheryl to be a D to get her attention. Now, if I am a softer personality, meaning that I'm more introverted, I care more about people and their feelings, and I'm concerned about teamwork, and I'm concerned about relationships, I don't need a blunt person. I need somebody to deliver the feedback with kindness, but I need somebody brave enough to tell me what it is I need to work on. So I think our personalities play a big part in how we receive feedback. And I know that one of the things I was going to share was my feedback formula. And so I'd love to do that, if that's okay.
Yeah, let's do that. Let's talk about the feedback formula.
Yeah, so it's called a C3. And this C3, I put it together as I was observing what works in feedback, what doesn't work in feedback. And I think what people need in a C3 is they need, and the people delivering it, leaders need a formula for a couple of reasons. One, so you're clear about what you're saying, and you don't get into the middle of giving feedback and it gets all messy. And you're not sure, you didn't say it the right way, and then you're upset you said it the wrong way, and the person across from you took it the wrong way. So you need to prep, especially if it is constructive feedback. You're asking somebody to change, improve, shift, do something differently. Now, the other reason you need a really good feedback formula is so you keep out of HR, so you don't get in trouble with human resources, okay? Because you've got to be thoughtful, write things down, have a thought, fill up with your thoughts, be thoughtful, write it down, and then deliver the feedback. Now, once you use this formula for maybe 2, 3, 5, 7 years, you can do it on the fly. I can do it on the fly now. So when you give a piece of feedback, this first C is circumstances. So you ground whatever kind of feedback you're going to give in a real-time place that the behavior you witnessed or the conduct you witnessed happened. So when you give feedback, it has to be quickly after you experience whatever it is you experienced, and you need to ground it. So it needs to have a time date on it, a stamp on it. It has to be like a little movie. So that's the circumstances. The next thing, the next C, is the conduct. So what exact behaviors did you witness? What was the thing that they did that you want them to shift, change, keep doing, whatever? Then finally, every action, we all learned this in physics class, every action has a corresponding reaction. And so we have to understand when we do this behavior, here's the consequences. When we do this behavior, here's the other consequences. So the 3 C's are circumstances, conduct, and consequences. All right. So those are the 3. So this is what a celebratory piece of feedback might sound like. Okay. I just was talking with a young lady prior to this meeting. And so this is what I would say. I'd say in our meeting we had about an hour ago, you showed up on time, conduct. You offered a lot of solutions to the problem that I told you that we were going to talk about. And you took ownership or 2 or 3 next right steps. Okay. So she was very much a problem solver in this meeting that we had. So I'm telling her when it happened, I want her to come with solutions. I want her to take ownership, and I want her to think ahead of time in meetings, right? Before meetings. And she did all that. So point it out. If you want a behavior from people, point it out every time they do it good. And then I said to her, and at the end of the meeting, I said, I just want to let you, based on this meeting that just happened, consequentially, I am like going into the weekend with like major relief. You provide relief in my life. You are helping me in a big way. And she's, of course. Okay. So it was celebratory feedback, but she took it very lightly that I gave her this really nice piece of feedback. But I think she'll like over the weekend, maybe it'll go through her head. She'll like, Nicole, she was so nice to me. And she was very complimentary. I am doing a good, I am a problem solver. So you got to catch people doing it right. Okay. Now, a corrective, let's say she didn't come with solutions. Let's say that she didn't come prepared. Let's say she was like, texted me and said, I'm going to be 10 minutes late. Okay. So I might give her a piece of feedback that says, hey, in this meeting an hour ago, I was thinking about the meeting. I thought I should give you some feedback. May I practice truth telling, honesty, and candor? She says yes. And I say, you know what? You are 10 minutes late, and this has been on the calendar for a week. And it's a pretty important subject. And it didn't seem like you had thought about it, and you didn't have any solutions. And I'm going into the weekend feeling like you don't have ownership. And consequently, I'm worried about what's going to happen next week. All right. So there's a really good piece of feedback. So it's the circumstances, the conduct, and the consequences. Now, after I give corrective feedback, this is a very simple thing that I tell leaders to do. Give it in the formula and then say, what's going on? And shut up. So what's up and shut up at the end of that. So the other person will start talking. And typically, now every once in a while, you've got a sassy person on your team or something, but most people will be like, oh, I'm sorry, or, oh, I didn't realize. Let them hear the feedback and respond to it before you try to make it all better for them. Don't make it all better for them. Let them sit with the feedback that you've given them and let them maybe experience this character trait called humility. Oh my gosh, I should have been prepared. Oh, this and that, and the dog ate my homework, and whatever all the excuses are that people aren't on time and don't do their work. I don't understand why people aren't on time and don't do their work, but let them sit with it. And again, if you are a leader who gives a lot of feedback, which I suggest you give a ton of it, and you're trying to build rapport, and your people know you're trying to develop them, just like Sheryl Sandberg was trying to develop Kim Scott, then they're okay with feedback. But in your relationship, you've got to make it very clear. I practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. On my watch, you're going to be amazing. And so I give a lot of feedback. And that's the little C3. What do you think about that?
What's really hard about feedback I think for a lot of people is that it forces them to really analyze what's going on and be reflective and be good observers of the situation and be able to articulate exactly what's going on and what those consequences are. Because often people just don't know. They feel something. They don't like that person suddenly, and they don't know why. They're unable to put it into words. And by using the formula, then they can really think about it. It really forces them to think about what actually happened. How are they feeling about it? What do they want to communicate? What went well or what didn't go well? And that becomes so much more helpful to people for sure.
Absolutely. And I think too, if you sit and think about it, then later on, if you had an employee that did go to HR, said, Nicole was so rude to me. And it's like, nope, let me tell you exactly what I said. Because like you sat there, you're going to say, no, I told her this and this. And if you do write it down, it's not because you're going to deliver a script. You're like, hold on, let me get my feedback, read it to you. You're not going to do that. But you're going to have a little cheat sheet in front of you when you give the feedback. And these kind of things, I've got HR background too. And you take these things and you probably, if you're at a bigger company, you have this thing called an HRIS system, a human resource information system. And you'll have your direct reports in there. And you can upload those pieces of feedback into a little file that's under lock and key on the system. And then when you go to give people performance reviews or there's a question about what you've done, and you've got yourself documented. And don't miss, it's not extra work. That's the work leaders do. They give feedback. They develop people. They make people better. That's what leaders really do. They lead strategy through people. There's
They
that.
do. They do. And another thing that leaders do is accountability. That's something that you were going to share with us today, the accountability formula. I love to hear more about that.
Yes, with the truth telling, honesty, and candor, one of the things that we want to do is we want to be candorous with people about how we're going to hold them accountable. Now, there's a little, like you might be like, my people need to be accountable. That's true. Congratulations, you're right. However, big giant, however, all cap letters and underlined and bolded, the leader holds the accountability. So it's like holding, like I got it in my hand. I got it in my hand right here. I'm holding it, which means if I'm holding you accountable, I'm carrying you around until you get this thing done. And everybody wants the other people to be accountable, but that's what leaders do. Again, they make sure that strategy is done through people. So there's when I was coming up in my career, people would say, you got to hold your people accountable. I'd be like, okay. And then I would delegate to them or ask them to do things for me, for the company, for the customer. And sometimes people would do it and sometimes they wouldn't. And when they didn't do it, weren't accountable, you know what I did? I cleaned up after them. That was really not the brightest thing to do. But sometimes I was scared to hold people accountable because I'm a little 5 foot tall female person. And sometimes it'd be like a big, huge maintenance guy or somebody that I'd be like, oh, I'll just do it myself. I don't know. I was scared. All right. So I would just clean up. Some point in time, I was working with Dave Cowan, and Dave Cowan said, Nicole, you got to stop cleaning up after people. You got to hold them accountable. And here's how you do it. And I thought, oh, finally, somebody's going to tell me how instead of just telling me to do it. And he said, there's 3 questions in the accountability formula that you have to ask. You have to get set in place in order to have true accountability in place. The first question is, what are you going to do? So if I asked you to do an Excel spreadsheet for me, I could just say, will you do an Excel spreadsheet for me on the data regarding marketing? And you say, yep. I don't have accountability. All I have is you agreeing to it. That's it. Accountability would be, okay, awesome. What do you think you're going to do? I'm going to do a spreadsheet. How are you going to set it up? Who will have access to it? Where is it going to be housed? Like you got to get some details in there, because here's the truth about asking somebody to do something for you. If you don't have success criteria that matches, you're going to be disappointed. If you don't set expectations, you're going to be disappointed. So I'm going to throw in this quote real quick. This is also from Dave Cowan. Uncommunicated expectations are a premeditated opportunity to be disappointed. So if you don't get clear about what you're going to get from this person, you don't have true accountability. So what are you going to do? The second question is, when are you going to do it? And here's what people will do. They'll be like, oh, don't worry, I got it. And you know what we do? We go, okay. And then we're like, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, where's the report? Because your idea of getting it to me is by Friday. And my idea of you're getting it to me is like this afternoon. So you have to say, when are you going to have it done? So it should be something you could stick on a calendar today at 2. Okay. And then the final question you ask in accountability is, how will I know it's done? And see, people are like, oh, don't worry, I'll get it. I'll take care of it. Don't worry about it. But do you worry about it? Say, yes, I worry about it because I don't know if it's done. So will you just help me out and let me know it's done? And so people can say, I'll send you a paper airplane across the top of the cubicles. I'll send you an email. I'll put it on your desk. I will post it on Teams, whatever the thing is, but let me know it's done. And I don't know about you, every time I delegate something and somebody completes it, I get a little drop of dopamine in my body. I'm like, stuff's getting done. And if you want to have really great amounts of serotonin and dopamine running through your body, get your people to tell you that they're accomplishing things. Now, some people might think this sounds like micromanaging, but it's not, because I'm not hovering over you while you do the Excel spreadsheet. I'm just putting accountability in place so we are clear. Now, if you don't deliver by 2 o'clock this afternoon, like you promised, I pick up the phone or go down to your office or email you and say, hey, I was expecting that report. And here's my line. What's up? Oh, I forgot all about it. Oh, you know what? Because you told me 2 o'clock, I told Sally I'd talk to her at 9 tomorrow. And oh, now we have a problem. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize. You only have to do this like 1 or 2 times and to go, Nicole is serious. She holds me accountable. And that's exactly what you want. And people want to be held to a level of excellence. I just think that's all true. What do you think about all that?
Yeah, I think that's excellent because, first of all, a lot of leaders are scared of holding people accountable. And
I
I think
agree.
part of that fear is just not knowing how to do it.
100%. I didn't know how to do it. I think Dave Cowan gave me that nugget in my 40s. And I was like, that's money. That's so good. So I've been using it, I've been sharing it, and I just think it's fantastic. Yeah, 3 questions, really simple. And if it's a big thing, you can. And here's the thing: back in the day, we all had day timers. Just, I'm dating myself. We used to write in a book, and you carried it around with you, and it was like a brick. But now I can actually go on to whatever program you're on. You got some project management thing Monday, or you've got Microsoft Outlook or whatever. You can go on there and say 2 o'clock Excel spreadsheet, invite both people to the deadline. It's so easy. Back then, we had to everybody write it in our separate stuff. It's very easy to hold people accountable. You just got to use the technology and use those 3 questions.
Yeah. And then, like you said, 2 times, people will start getting really used to it. And it becomes predictable for them. They know exactly what the questions are, what you're going to ask them, so they can prepare ahead as well. And that's also a great way to educate them on how to work with you.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah. And I think your life will change if you hold people accountable in this way. And you might have to draw a line in the sand. If you've been an easygoing, roll with it kind of leader or manager, at first people are going to be like, geez, what's gotten into you? You say, oh, I listened to this podcast and they gave me this formula and I'm going to try it. And you can use it on me too, because you can hold your leaders accountable as well.
Yeah.
Like you need something from a leader and you go to the leader and say, I need your help with this. And they go, okay. And you say, what are you going to do? How are you going to do it? I'm curious. When are you going to do that? How will I know that you got that done so I can move forward? You can lead up. You can hold accountability up too.
Yeah. It's not, oh, you didn't do this. What's wrong with you? Or it's not that attitude. It really comes across as curiosity.
Yes, 100%. And
And
we need a lot more curiosity in this world. Ask
we
more questions,
do.
everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, we certainly do. Okay, so we have the accountability formula. Wonderful. We have the feedback formula. Now, what's the learning curve?
Yeah. So the learning curve, I actually picked this up when I went to training at the Center for Creative Leadership. Everybody write this down, ccl.org. I had you know how you go to some training along your career and you're like, that was really good. That helped me a lot. I had the privilege of doing that when I was a Rotarian. CCL has this little thing called a learning curve. And I've heard that my whole life. Oh, I'm going through a learning curve. They have this diagram that is the anatomy of a learning curve. And basically, what it says is that we're traveling along in our career or in our life, and we need a new skill, a new talent, a new habit, whatever it is. And at first, when you first start to do that new skill, talent, or habit, it's like your performance tanks a little bit because you're struggling. And so when they draw this, it looks like a line with a check mark. Okay. And so you dip below your normal level of performance for a while and you gag. It's hard to do this at first. But then as you're gagging, going against the grain is what gag is an acronym for. So I'm doing something I've never done. I'm changing the way my brain is hardwired. I'm changing my muscle memory, whatever the task is I'm being asked to do. And then eventually the light bulb goes off, or my fingers in my hands start to do the muscle memory this way. Like all of a sudden it clicks. And then you shoot out of this subpar performance and you start performing at this higher level than you've ever performed at. Okay. And when you see it on paper, it's fantastic because the flat line is if I never change anything, I'm going to have a mediocre life, a mediocre career. But if I go through learning curves, I gag for a while, then I bounce out. I gag for a while and I bounce out. I gag for a while and I bounce out. So I have these different levels that I achieve. But here's the truth telling, honesty, and candor of the thing is that you're going to be a hot mess when you learn something new. Now, here's the thing. We have a perfectionistic world we live in. Have you been on Instagram lately? Have you been on the Facebook? Have you noticed how perfect everybody's life is, how beautiful their skin is, and how lustrous their hair is, and what a beautiful family they have, and they have no problems at all. Nobody posts all their icky stuff. That we don't do that. And look at the salad I had. It's amazing, or whatever. So these people post all this perfect stuff. And so we all are so worried about looking good and doing things right out of the gate, but we don't look good and do things great out of the gate. We struggle, we gag, we get messy. And so when you sit down with an employee and you say to them, I want you to learn to do this, you're going to be a hot mess. No, you wouldn't say that, but you say, you're going to gag. And I am anticipating that you will gag. That's how it works. That's how this life works. I don't know if anybody listening to this, or if you've ever done this. Have you ever taught a child to ride a bicycle without training wheels?
No.
That is a very frustrating activity. You have to run behind them and you have to catch them when they fall. And it is a hot mess getting a kid to ride a 2-wheel bicycle. Okay. But the minute that they get their balance and they pedal and they're off, everybody's so stinking happy. But it was messy, frustrating. Probably there was anger, tears, all sorts of terrible things. People who have done this with a child are like, oh my gosh, she's right. But once they get going, it's like, where's Johnny? Oh, he left on his bicycle. Oh, I hope he'll be home by dinner. Like, he's gone. He rides that bicycle everywhere. And that's the way it is with your employees, is at first it's messy. And you have to say to them, it's okay. So I'll give you a quick example of that. So I had the privilege during COVID. My business suffered like many businesses during COVID. Nobody wanted to get in a room and do training. I had a very good client and they called me up and they said, would you like to be a technical trainer for an energy company that is going to get brand new software for 800 employees? And so I was like, yes, maybe. And they said, you're going to learn SAP, which is enterprise software, a German enterprise software. So I'm not really hardwired for this, but we got to make sure we send children to college and pay the car payment. So I said, yes, I would like to do this. We were on Zoom for 5 days a week from 8 until 6, learning technical computer stuff so we could teach it to somebody else. Oh my gosh. The first 3 weeks, I was like, what am I doing? I was exhausted. I would go upstairs, take a bath, have a cup of soup, and go to bed because I was like exhausted from learning all of this technical training. Now I can do it. I have a brain. But then, I don't know, about week 5, I was like, oh, this is easy. But that's what your employees go through, is they are exhausted. They're tired. When they're learning stuff or change is happening, they're going through that learning curve. And so you got to give them permission to gag. And everybody has to tell the truth. We're all about to gag around here. We're getting new software. It's going to be messy, but we can do it. And the company that we were working with, they did such a nice job of keeping us energized. Like one time I got this thing in the mail, like random. They're like, it was a $10 gift certificate to get food delivered to my front door. They're like, feed yourself today. And I was like, oh. And so you came back with renewed energy. Like during the messy times, you got to treat people a little nicer, a little extra, right? So I think be honest with people and say, I want you to do this. I know it's going to be messy, but I got your back. And I want you, on my watch, you're going to get better. I'll give you feedback along the way, right? I'm holding you accountable for this change. Let's do it. So those are the 3 things that allow you to just tell the truth and be honest and candorous with your people.
Oh, that's a great combination. Yeah. And that third one is so key because nobody likes to feel like they're not good at something, and especially when it's visible to other people.
100%.
It's very uncomfortable. Even the better you are at something, the less you want to get into that really vulnerable space where you're going to suck at something for a while. And so if having your manager acknowledge that and expect that from you initially, and then create that space where feedback is a normal thing throughout that curve, I think is beautiful. It's a great example as well.
Yeah. And some of the people that I ended up training, I thought to myself, I had this one gal who was a native Spanish speaker, and she was so lovely. Her name was Rosa. And what blew my mind is here we have this German software. She's a native Spanish speaker, and she's translating all this mess into English in her head. And she was so pleasant through the whole learning curve. And she was gagging big time because she had to translate all these words, okay, all these different, like we had a whole new vocabulary. Everybody had a whole new vocabulary, and she had two new vocabularies, you know what I mean? And so she was driving the other trainers crazy because she said, what does that mean? What does that word mean? What does it mean? Now, she was not being ugly or obnoxious. She just was like trying to do a good job. She was gagging. And so I had to explain to her, listen, everybody, I'll take care of Rosa. Me and Rosa, we're hooking up on another Teams channel. And so I ended up being like her buddy. And but she cared so stinking much about getting it right. But she was totally gagging on the language thing, right? But like when it was over and done, she was one of the best people. She was fast, she got it, she was on it. And then we had people who were speaking English who weren't trying that hard. It was just irritating. People will gag. Be with them in the gag. Don't be irritated by the gag.
Yeah, and I think that's a great example because it shows that when people are asking maybe what seems excessive questions, it should actually be interpreted as a sign of interest in caring about doing things right and learning and growing and delivering on the expectations. So like the lady that you're talking about. But yeah. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
these are great. 3 phenomenal tips here
Awesome.
for people and leaders, for employees, but also for great leadership.
Yeah, and you can do this with your sister. You can do this with your children. You can do it with your nieces and nephews. You can do it with the neighborhood children. It's everybody needs feedback. Everybody needs help going through the learning curve, and everybody needs somebody to say, "Are you working on that? How's that going?" Holding people accountable. We all need this stuff.
Oh yeah, we need that. And the more we have that and the more we're used to having those conversations, the easier it's going to be for everyone. The results are just going to be spectacular for everyone as well. And that last one's also reminds me of a short-term pain for a long-term gain.
Oh yeah, that's totally good. I'm going to take that from you. Yeah, I love that. Yeah, there's no pain, no gain too. There's a lot of them about that. Yeah.
There is.
Mhm.
It's necessary and it needs to be expected and
Yeah.
supported, like you said.
Yeah, I totally agree. I totally agree. And you know what the funny thing is, as I said earlier, is you can practice truth telling, honesty, and candor with somebody if you have a relationship. And Rosa, one of the things was is I'm always trying to find common ground with people. When you find common ground with people, then we're the same people. And so that's another thing that can help you practice truth telling, honesty, and candor. We got on this kick one night. We were talking about, she was like, I'm going to the TJ Maxx when I get done working. And I don't know how many of you out there are listening that love the TJ Maxx, but both Rosa and I dig the TJ Maxx in a big way. And so like to this day, she'll still like text me like, look what I found. And she was decorating her new home. And so we built a relationship where I could tell her the truth about anything. She could tell me the truth about anything. We wouldn't be offended. So we're friendly. We're not friends, but we're friendly. And I think that's what you need to do with your peers, your leaders, and the folks that you directly manage.
Oh yeah, it really helps to build that rapport and be friendly. And why not? Be honest, give feedback, hold people accountable, and help them get through that dip in performance at the beginning when they're learning something new in a
Yeah,
friendly way. It's absolutely compatible.
that's right. 100% correct.
Where can our listeners find you?
Yeah, it's super easy. You just go to vibrantculture.com and there I am. My phone number's right on there. You can pick up the phone and call me directly, or you can fill out a little form on there and then I'll return your call. I'll send you an email back. Just go to vibrant.com and you'll have everything you need. And I'm also over on the LinkedIn. So if you don't really need me right now, but you'd like to see what I'm posting and have a place to find me easily and remember who I am, I'm posting about once a day over there on LinkedIn, and that's my favorite place to play in social media. And just type in Nicole Greer, Vibrant Culture, boop, I'll be right there.
The vibrant culture lady with the vibrant culture company.
That's
Well,
right.
it's been lovely to have you, and these are great learning points for all of us. So thank you once more, Nicole.
Yeah, it's my pleasure to be with everybody. I'd love to be linked in with you. And thank you so much for being such a great host. I've had such a great time.
Yeah, and I loved it.